If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of three. Inside my online program, Fitness Mama, I just love helping support women to care for their bodies during pregnancy, prepare their bodies for birth, and support their after-birth recovery, helping them feel confident and strong inside out during this important stage of their lives. In this podcast, join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth, and postnatal recovery, helping you through every step of the journey. It is absolutely possible to feel amazing and confident in our bodies during this motherhood journey, and I want that for you. Come and say hi to me on Instagram @fitnessmama, and let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome back to the Pregnancy, Birth and Recovery podcast. So today's podcast episode, it's a solo one and it's a 3-part series. I'm talking you through 3 ways to prepare your body and pelvic floor for birth. So in doing so, we're going to discuss ways to reduce your risk of incontinence, leaking, those pelvic floor concerns. I'm going to talk you through ways of reducing your risk of 3rd and 4th degree perineal tears and episiotomy. And I'm going to talk you through ways to help boost your after-birth recovery, to support your postnatal rehab so that ultimately you feel better sooner after birth. So today we're discussing ways to help prepare your pelvic floor for birth. Our next session is we're discussing perineal massage and how to perineal preparation, the impact that can have on your birth. And then our 3rd session in this series, it's postnatal rehab. So let's get straight into it. 1 in 3 women who've had a baby, who are pregnant, have gone through childbirth, experience incontinence. That's 1 in 3 women. 1 in 2 women who have a baby experience pelvic organ prolapse. 1 in 2. This is according to the Continence Foundation of Australia. These statistics are real. Historically, we haven't discussed this. I think pelvic health, leaking, prolapse issues, we haven't discussed. And I'm on a mission to change this. This is why I've created Fitness Mama, my online program for pregnancy and postpartum. Because there's so much that we can do preventatively. This is why I've created this podcast. As a pelvic floor physio, when I was working clinically, I would always see women when they already had the issues with the leaking, with the incontinence, with the prolapse, with the aches and pains, or perhaps they wanting to get back into running and it wasn't as easy as they thought postpartum. And this is where I thought there is so much that we can be doing preventatively to help prevent, but also sometimes these issues aren't preventable, in which case we want to be aware, identify the issues sooner and get onto management sooner rather than later. There was so much that we can do proactively versus reactively. So that's what this podcast is about. That's what my online workout program is about, with the physio-created workouts, the preparing for birth information, and the postnatal rehab. Because ultimately, I really do feel reclaiming our pelvic floor, core and strength safely, it is, I would argue, the most effective way to care for your body confidently during and after pregnancy. I guess the thing that I find a lot of women, that concerns with a lot of women once pregnant, well, first of all, everyone gets busy, right? There's a massive to-do list, and these 3 sessions aren't about adding extra things to your to-do list. I know everyone's time poor. Perhaps you've got a toddler. Perhaps you're working full-time. There's lots more appointments when you're pregnant. So certainly that is a consideration. But I know a lot of women are actually really unsure how to prepare for birth. This is why a lot of people join online program. I have a lot of these conversations in my DMs on Instagram. And women are worried about the effects of birth. I think especially because there's more awareness around it. So women are worried about it. But that's also something we don't want to be worried, because we want to I guess when you're pregnant, you don't want to be worried about this stuff. We want to feel excited and empowered and confident moving forwards. And ultimately, that's what everything I do, it's around those 3 goals. Firstly, let's be dry. Let's not be leaking. Or if we are leaking or have pelvic floor concerns, let's have an action plan so we know how to recover afterwards. I know a lot of women who join Fitness Mama are wanting to feel strong inside out. So it's not just about losing the baby weight, which I don't even like to talk about. But it's not about that external side of things. It's about feeling strong inside out. And what I mean by that is feeling strong enough that they can run across the road without leaking, or go for, play chasey with their kids, or jump around in the waves at the beach. Because ultimately, I think you would agree, everyone would agree, we all want to just have our best motherhood, right? We want to have our best motherhood experience without being weighed down by concerns around incontinence, which, as I mentioned, 1 in 3 women have, and 2 women have some type of prolapse. And I will just say, if that is you, if you have concerns around incontinence, prolapse, just know there is so much you can do to help the situation and plan for the future. So whether or not you go and have a chat to your healthcare team, go and have a chat to your local pelvic floor physio, come and join us inside Fitness Mama, or go and find whatever it is that you need to feel confident about your next steps for recovery is so important. So let's chat about reducing the risk of pelvic floor concerns so that you're not 1 in 3 women who have incontinence and you're not 1 in 2 women who have prolapse. There's 2 main stages in our life we're more at risk of these issues. The first stage is pregnancy and childbirth, and then the second stage is menopause. And if we think about it, if we have multiple children, and it depends what age you start having children, but really, menopause can be just on your doorstep once you finish having your babies. And perimenopause symptoms can start in the early 40s. So I really do believe pregnancy and childbirth, that's our time after that, is to create that buffer and get stronger in our core, our pelvic floor, our muscles again, to help buffer our body for the onset of menopause. Right, now a little bit of anatomy. Our pelvic floor muscles, they're the floor of the pelvis. They wrap around the pelvic floor. They wrap around from your pubic bone at the front to your sacrum, your tailbone. They wrap around all the openings, so your bladder, your urethra where the wee comes out, the vagina, and then your back passage, your rectum. And these 3, it serves 2 main functions. Firstly, it's to close off these openings so that you're not experiencing incontinence. But secondly, it's to lift your organs. So when I talk about organs, I'm meaning the bladder, the uterus, and the bowels, the rectum. And I think the thing with pelvic floor, and this is an amazing concept if you can become aware of this, because this will help with our next session when we're talking about perineal massage. When we become pregnant, sometimes that's when we start to hear about the word pelvic floor, and we suddenly become aware that, okay, I need to do my pelvic floor exercises, need to get onto my Kegels. And we start exercising and getting stronger, and we're doing our lifts. But the thing, if you have a quick think about it, do you want your pelvic floor muscles to be zipped up and closed and drawn in for birth? Or do you want them to be soft and open, relaxed for birth? Because our pelvic floor muscles, just like any muscle in the body, like our biceps and our arm, can be relaxed and soft, or you can contract your muscles and it tightens up. Same with our pelvic floor. It's a muscle like any other in the body. It can be relaxed and soft, or it can be zipped up and tight. And so I feel, back a few decades ago, we started understanding that pelvic floor had a role in incontinence. So we started realizing if they're weak, we might have issues with leaking. So we all started to learn more about pelvic floor exercises and doing more strengthening. And then we started realizing, hey, it's actually not just about strengthening these muscles. We actually need them to relax as well. And the reason that concept is important is if you're experiencing anxiety, you're highly stressed, perhaps you've had chronic pelvic pain like endometriosis, you've been subject to trauma, like there's many reasons why our pelvic, or perhaps you're an athlete and you do lots and lots of exercise. Like there's many conditions why your pelvic floor muscles might be overactive. And I will just say sometimes there's no known cause for overactive pelvic floor either, like hypertonic pelvic floor. But if that's you, then maybe you don't need to be doing lots and lots of strengthening. You actually need to be focusing more on the relaxation side of pelvic floor. So I do have a free checklist where you can just simply go through and answer yes, no questions. And if you answer yes to any of these questions, I recommend you seek the support of your local pelvic floor physio. So I will put that list in the show notes. But if you do experience any of those, I guess what we call red flags, or those symptoms of incontinence, prolapse, pain during sex, there's constipation, there's a whole range of them. So check the checklist that I've linked. Go and seek the advice of a pelvic floor physio. So our pelvic floor muscles are perfectly built for the job of opening up and relaxing, and I guess when we're talking about opening up and relaxing, think about that baby coming through the birth canal. We want to open up so that baby can come through the birth canal. Now, this is a very simplistic way of thinking about it, but I just think that concept is really important because, and I just did a birth story recently with, who was it? Oh, I'll link it in the show notes. But she said one thing she didn't actually realize was during birth how to relax her pelvic floor. And she actually found that whole pushing side of things quite a challenge. So I think even that concept, and this is where research is pointing as well, even that concept of, okay, this is how you lift your pelvic floor, this is how do you relax your pelvic floor, that can be really helpful in the pushing and like the birth side of things. So this is what I teach inside Fitness Mama. So, for example, we have got childbirth preparation workouts where I talk you through pelvic floor exercises, relaxation. We also talk through strategies for birth, how to release your pelvic floor to help make pushing more effective. If you're interested in learning more, we do have a 7-day free trial. And there is research to show that early structured pelvic floor muscle training in early pregnancy for continent women may prevent the onset of urinary incontinence in late pregnancy and postpartum. So that's a Cochrane review in 2021. It's really exciting. There's more research showing the impact of pelvic floor on both birth outcomes, but also postnatal recovery. When I was 2 weeks postpartum, my first baby, my pregnancy had been a textbook. It had been great. My birth, I think the doctor would have said it was textbook. It was pretty good. But when I was 2 weeks postpartum, I realised how ill-equipped I was in helping support my postpartum recovery. Although I was a physio, I was working in a Pilates clinic at the time. I had an interest in women's health, but 2 weeks postpartum, I did a whole range of things which resulted in me experiencing prolapse symptoms. So I had, at the end of a particularly long walk, I had these prolapse, this feeling of a pelvic heaviness sensation. I felt like everything was falling out of me. And I got home from the walk and I said to my husband, oh my gosh, I feel like my guts are falling out. It was a horrible sensation. It was a horrible experience. And I realized how ill-equipped I was in supporting my post-pelvic floor recovery. And this prompted me to go on to do postgraduate training at pelvic floor rehab and diving into this area really more. It also prompted me to create this podcast and Fitness Mama. But our pelvic floor and our recovery, it's huge. Like it can affect, it's not just our physical outcomes, but our mental health, our confidence. Who wants to go for a walk or a run if they're getting these symptoms, these pelvic floor symptoms? And then that can create more weight gain and getting even weaker and deconditioned and all the rest. So it is a big deal. And I think it's something, as I said earlier, it's not something we talk about, but this is about opening up this conversation. If you have any questions about your pelvic floor, if you want to learn more about how to prepare your pelvic floor for birth and help to exercise your pelvic floor during pregnancy, but also prepare it for birth and then help with that postnatal recovery, so it's the 3 different aspects, then Fitness Mama could be exactly what you need. There's a free 7-day trial. Come and check it out. Join me for our next session where we're taking this one step further, and I'm going to talk you through perineal massage, perineal preparation, and ways to reduce our risk of 3rd and 4th degree perineal tears and episiotomy. So that's it for today, ladies. Any questions, send me a DM on Instagram at Fitness Mama. I'd love to help you, whether or not I can answer the question, or if I don't know the answer, I'll point you in the right direction. But I really want to be here to help support you along your pregnancy, birth and recovery journey. So without further ado, have a great day, and I will see you soon for our second session all about perineal massage. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer: materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I'll see you soon.